Yo, dude, I'm so
Hey,
glad that it started recording now and not 5 seconds ago because I know it's
yeah.
Pride Month, but I don't want to sound very Pride Month on this podcast.
Hey, I was just in here hitting the double bicep like Hogan.
Let's go. Let's go, brother. I love bringing, it's so funny you say that because I got these shirts sent to me and I don't want to give the brand away or anything because we might work with them in the future, but very, very comforting shirt. And I was doing the same thing and I was like, wait a minute. And then you came on the camera and I was like, okay, that's enough. This is too weird already for it being Pride Month.
Hey, did I know my business partner Marshall's probably listening to this. Marshall hasn't sent you a Left Lane for Violence shirt yet?
He sure hasn't, Nick, and I'm sure glad you mentioned that.
Wow, you haven't sent him an email?
No, but my wife was like, "Hey, did you get a shirt?" And I was like, "You know what? I didn't."
Yeah. No, we got to rectify that. Hey, that's you and Marty were talking this week, so you got to get that hooked up.
Dude, you're absolutely right. But I kept it straight business because you gentlemen are so busy. I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to mess with the shirt right now. I'll get back to that later.
I hear you.
But look, at the top of the show, guys, clutchculturepodcast@gmail.com is the email. We have had an influx of emails, and I'm going to say it right now to put Nick on the spot. If we keep getting this volume of emails, we might have to, at some point in the near future, do a full show where it's just email questions, like listener questions.
Yeah, dude, I love like the Ask Me Anything type style. I don't know, just even like podcasters that I follow. I don't know how you feel. I've kind of, I don't like when they lean on that, but like, let's say once a quarter, once every 60 days, something like that. I kind of enjoy that.
Absolutely. And a lot of random, just different conversations, and we'll get to those, a few of those later in the episode. But we got to start at the top here. The last week, man, Toyota virality has hit our social videos once again. But this time,
man,
in a
it's
manner
nuts.
that blew both of us away, in a way that, you know.
So can I explain something first?
Please.
For all you Helix experts that think you're a Helix expert and you didn't understand the champ jokes in the comments that I was leaving, that's how I know you don't know what you're talking about with Helix. So I've imported a few Helix for some customers of mine. Not really a bad experience. I've driven a few of them. I like the idea. They're a nice vehicle for what they are. Well, they named this one the Helix Champ.
Okay.
Well, the problem is, if you start getting into that world, there's a joke that everybody says because, hey, do you have that Helix on your lot, Champ? They would like talk like that,
Okay,
because somebody would have like, so the salespeople and the people globally, they always thought somebody was calling them Champ. Well, I mean, if you're a 40-year-old man, you don't like to be called Champ, or you're 50 or you're 35. Champ's not really, that was the joke, guys. So then I had people say, you don't even know what a Helix Champ is. It's like, no, the Champ part's the joke. That was the joke.
I'm unaware of this, by the way, for listeners. I'm listening to Nick tell the story. That's how many comments and interactions are going on that I don't know this discussion in the thread whatsoever.
Yeah. So so somebody goes like, you must not know about the Helix Champ. And then I would go, did you just call me Champ?
Gotcha. I'm picking up what
You
you're
know what I mean? It's like, guys, this is kind of what we're here to do, is to have a good time. It seems like to me we have a really cool Toyota crowd that has a great time. But then you have this small group that's like, whoa, you guys need to like lighten up. I mean, like really lighten up.
There's a really cool, speaking of emails, we had one, this is even more random. It was not question related, but it was sent in as an event that's actually going on in Austin that it's all Toyota based Land Cruisers that look like predominantly, and then older ones, and they're going to have like some special old Land Cruisers that's going to be there as well. I'm not available that night, but it's going to be at a really cool brewery, and maybe you and I will talk about it. And maybe in the future, what I'd like to do too is like start dipping our toes in being a part of some of these events, especially you with the Lexus. If I pick up something here in Texas that I can kind of just immerse myself in some of these crowds that might not necessarily be Euro based or American Muscle or whatever, but it's just really cool. Like the audience is coming together from different angles of the car culture community to just be a part of the conversation. Yeah. And go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to talk about another vehicle that everybody always brings up in the Toyota culture. So there's a big thing about the 70s Land Cruiser. I want to see that come in, bring in the 70 Land Cruiser. But guys, by the time they got it here, they got all the specs right, whatever. It costs more than the 4Runner.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for them to bring that in here. And again, I love the enthusiasm, but some of this stuff, guys, and I think we need to have a conversation. You asked me beforehand. I'm going to throw Rob off here because he said, is there anything you want to talk about? And I forgot that I do want to talk about this.
Sure.
There are people bringing up the CAFE standards, which are basically the full fuel efficiency standards, as to why the small truck has gone away. Mm-hmm. It's a very good point. Okay, let me explain. It's a very good point. But I think it also leads to this conversation of, how have we not really improved fuel efficiency as much as everybody says we've had, right? Like there were trucks in the 90s that you could drive around in the mini truck circuit that were getting, 28 to 35 miles a gallon. And we have some guys that still own those trucks that are writing into us saying, hey man, I'm pretty religious about tracking my mileage. I got this 90s Toyota, I get like 32 miles a gallon. Yeah. And they're like, well, the CAFE standards and the footprint of the truck, it'd have to reach 50 miles per gallon. Guys, in 35 years, we haven't been able to advance to miles per gallon. You and I talked about the Honda recently that only got 28 miles per gallon. That to me was an interesting comment, because when I started talking to the guy in the comments and he ended up DMing me, I just wanted him to realize, dude, you're on the right track, but I think we're not having the right conversation. Miles per gallon should be much higher on a smaller truck now than what it's proposed to be, in my opinion, if we're to believe all of this advancement in engine technology.
Yeah, and I think you and I must have been talking about this off the podcast, because that conversation is one of the ones I always bring up with people that talk about smaller cars or efficiency or hybrids and EVs and stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, like let's take a pause and go back and say, why is it that we're to believe that our efficiency when it comes to combustion cars are just what it is right now? Because it's supposed to be, and I don't quote me here, but I think it's supposed to be something around 60 miles per gallon is the standard that the previous administration wanted to get to by like 2030 or 35.
Yeah, 2031. I think it was like 50 miles per gallon at like 2031 or and by the way, political aside, I think it's a fine goal.
Sure.
Because if we were somewhere in the year 2000 had some of these smaller engines that were not as well engineered as I'm being told as today, I don't think it's unreasonable to have these goals. Whether you reach them or not is a different conversation. But do I think a mini truck should be talking about, getting 42 miles a gallon in a nice little, four-banger? Yeah, man, I think we should be asking, why hasn't that happened?
Yeah.
Again, for all you engineers out there listening, I realize that I'm not in the engine room with you guys going, hey, these are the limitations, whatever. But we do have enough people contacting us going, hey, I can very easily get 32 miles a gallon in this 90s truck that I have. Is it unreasonable to think we've picked up 18 miles a gallon in 35 years?
Dude, not at all. So for people that may have missed it somehow because you're really living under a rock, we had the mini truck video, the Toyota pickup video, go viral, 2 million on TikTok alone, probably 2.75 million across all the platforms. And I loved it because I actually called my mom and told her to look for photos, because I learned to drive stick, and it was like an 87 to 89 Toyota pickup. And we used to use it. I've mentioned it before. We used to use it as a ranch truck. And when I used to get in that truck to go feed the cattle, I would smell that sweet feed. And as soon as this video started going viral, all of a sudden my synapses started firing. I'm like, I could smell the sweet feed in my office.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I want an old Toyota mini pickup truck like that. And I'm just going to put bags of feed in there. Not even going to use it for anything, just to have that sensation again from
mine was a mini Dodge on a farm. Yeah,
nice.
I mean, no, look, man. I think a lot of people gave us a lot to think about, okay? But also, I really want to say this to all of you out there that take yourself too seriously. If you didn't understand the champ joke, I apologize. Like, a guy got on my delivery in the comments. He goes, maybe your delivery in the comments should be better. It's like, buddy, it's a comment. Like, I don't know how to make it better. Like, because I would like just constantly say the word champ when I responded back to people. Like, I'd say, hey, I don't think you know what you're talking about, champ. And because they brought up it's like, guys, you got to lighten up. That's what I really, and by the way, a lot of great comments that made me think about things. That's what I want. Like, guys, I don't propose that we're right about everything, because I don't think most of these conversations are right and wrong conversations. Exactly. So I want to applaud everybody. Like, keep commenting, guys, because I end up going and looking things and saying, okay, it makes me better with clients. It makes me better talking to all of you. So I actually think for the first time, in this viral moment, I go, hey man, it was awesome to see. Like, I just want to thank everybody, just like we are with the emails and, everything like that. And yeah, man, it's been great.
And one of the common themes, I was telling Nick off, we were having a kind of a team meeting the other day over a phone, and the common theme in a lot of the comments on YouTube and TikTok, like I tried, like you guys might not believe this, but like we go in there and individually, like there's no other big team. It's Nick and myself who are like
Yeah,
answering you
for
guys.
sure.
Like we don't have administrative assistants that are going in there and just like running the accounts for us. It's him and I doing all the commenting, the posting, and whatnot. And one of the common themes I was telling Nick that I noticed, especially on YouTube, was that people saying something to the effect of, for a long time, for years, I gave up on car talk and car podcasts. And I told Nick, and then I thought about it. I was like, so did I. And it
Yeah, me
wasn't until
too.
they found this show that they were like, oh, cool. Like, it's brought me back into the fold of like car conversations and like fun, car ball busting or whatever. I thought that was really cool. Again, not to sound very
Yeah, and I do
buzzwordy,
want to
I
say this
appreciate
because we're picking up new listeners all the time.
it. Mhm.
Guys, the whole theme is here is that we bust balls about cars. We talk a little bit of news. We talk like you guys all talk to your friends,
Yeah.
which is what was missing. This is how you talk to your friends. If you bang on your friends and the cars they like, if it's different than the car you like, and that doesn't mean you hate the car. And so this leads me into a call I got 48 hours ago.
All right.
So, for all you people that are listening to us just to like learn a little bit more about how to buy a car a little better or, things like that, the number one piece of advice I can give anybody, go drive multiple cars, especially if you're not lucky enough. You're an accountant, you're a plumber, you got things going on, you're not in the car business every day, you don't get into cars all the time. I'm going to say this. What you think you like because it looks cool, after you drive it, you may go, I hate this thing. Happens all the time. Okay. But what's become more standard with the internet and everything is somebody will buy a car without driving it. Okay. Think Tesla, think all the EVs that you see, Rivian. There's plenty of people that buy Rivian. They've never even ridden in one. But that's happening with CarMax and all of these places now, right? The test drive, I'm telling you, needs to be utilized more than it's being utilized for today's consumer. That's my opinion. So we brought up my buddy who his wife was hell-bent on getting a 4Runner. This was one of those moments that went viral on the internet. And all I ever told them was, make sure you look at Lexus, make sure you drive the cars, get back to me, right? Mm-hmm. Wednesday night, they drove the 4Runner. The first words out of his mouth when I picked up the phone is, no chance we're buying that 4Runner. And I go, what happened? I mean, because now I'm thinking like, did you wreck it on the test drive or whatever? Yeah. He goes, I don't know, man. It's not good. Like, it's not comfortable to ride around in. He's a little bit of a taller guy, right? Similar size height-wise to me, which I've always told people the 4Runner sits very awkwardly for me personally, which is why I've never liked them. And he goes, there's just like a lot of plastic and he goes, and they're expensive for what they are. He came to that realization after the test drive, right? And his wife, who this was what she thought her dream car was going to be after she had this huge milestone in her life, this is what she was going to reward herself with. She said, we're not getting that. To the point, they actually preferred the new Land Cruiser over the 4Runner.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either. Now, all I said to them was, hey, man, that new Land Cruiser, be very certain that's the engine you want, but I'm not against it. And here's exactly the reason. He goes, I felt kind of claustrophobic in the 4Runner. He goes, the Land Cruiser made me feel like there was more room. He goes, and he said, this is his words, whether there is or not, I don't know, but it just feels bigger in there. And the 4Runner feels very cramped. Again, something I've said for multiple generations of the 4Runner that I don't like. I never shared the claustrophobic thing with him. That's what he came to the realization of. So the thing is that, guys, I don't say this stuff in a vacuum as if I haven't driven the cars, okay? I've driven 4Runners. I told people probably the last 4Runner I really liked was like a 99 Limited, but I wasn't even old enough to know what nice was at that point, right? Like I just thought they looked cool with the gold emblem, and I was like, oh man, this is great. I didn't know. But it's a platform that either fits you, and here was his exact words. He goes, when I drove the Land Cruiser, it felt like it would fit into our life driving around town better. The 4Runner, yeah, man, if I was going to, go up in the mountains or whatever, am I certain that that would be better? And then we had a joke about where most 4Runners are. I said most 4Runners are at Kohl's or Target or Sam's Club or Costco. They're not out in the wilderness. And we had a fun joke with it. But now he's trying to hunt down a GX 550. He's like, and guess what? You can't even test drive them in Vegas right now. They don't stay on the lot. One was on the lot for an hour and a half last night, basically.
Dang.
And it was gone.
Let's not skip by past the fact that Kohl's Cash is very enticing to a lot of people, mostly our wives. And hey, that's where we're going to spend a lot of time. Okay, it's okay.
Yeah. But I want people to realize you and I don't really say things in vacuum. We have a lot of people that contact us about cars. It's a business for me at times, finding cars for people and collections and whatnot. But I'll say this to anybody out there: go drive the car.
Yeah.
Whether you think it's something you want, go drive the car before you buy it.
And the people that I have the hardest time with this are people like my wife, my sister-in-law, my sister, women in general do not want to spend the time to go drive the cars. It just is what it is, people. And I know we have a couple of lady listeners. You could probably agree with this. It seems like such a chore, which is so funny because they'll go spend hours at stores doing nothing, window shopping for other things. But when it comes to a car, they're like, no, you do the research, which is fine. I don't mind it. But you do the research. You let me know what's good. And then we're just going to go maybe drive 2 of them. I'm like, but we have a list of half a dozen at least before we actually make this purchase. And they most of the times refuse to do it. So you got to do a little reverse psychology, guys. You got to figure out a way to get them interested, or at least make it seem like it's fun, I guess.
But here's the thing: there's a lot of men that are like this now. They're just like, oh well, I saw something online about it. I'm going to go ahead and just buy it, and then they get it and they drive it, and they're like, oh, I don't really like this. The number one reason that I get people that call me that want me to get them out of the car deal that they signed is because they drove the car and didn't like it.
Makes sense.
That's why I give you guys that piece of advice. Guys, I don't care how much money you have. I'll give people this story. I had a client of mine, money's no object. And when I say money's no object, I mean money's no object. I mean, you would know this guy, Rob, and the guys I'm in business with this. He bought a Lucid, top of the line, everything. I said, I don't think this car is going to fit you. He's like, just get one. We got it, drove it to work one day, drove it home, goes, get rid of this thing. Okay, I've had it happen with SF90. I've had it happen. I've had it happen with Tahoes. I've had it happen with F-150s. Guys, just trust me. Bronco Raptor is a big one that I had to deal with in the last year. Drive the cars. I don't care how much money you have. And again, I have customers that they'll just say to me, I'm not going to waste my time. Just buy the car. If I hate it, we'll get rid of it. I had a guy lose $80,000 on a Hummer EV. Bought it. Didn't care, whatever. It's all good, man. I just will tell you, the average consumer listening to us, go drive some cars. Just take the time. And it's better to drive the cars when you don't need to buy one. So hey, I'm going to drive the car today. I'm going to go drive 5 or 6 cars today. I'm going to sit on it for a few weeks, think really what I want, kind of write some thoughts down a little bit, and go, okay, now I'm going to make the decision on that. That's the best way to do it. And that's the thing that we can provide to people is, I'm just telling you guys, drive the cars. If you don't get to drive a lot of cars, I got to drive a Maybach this week. I'm telling you, fantastic.
How was it? Yeah?
Dude, come on.
You're what kind of bad decisions can I make to get into one of these?
What's that?
You're like, what kind of bad decisions can I make to get into one of these on a regular basis?
Oh, dude, it's I took some. I didn't take any video, but I'll just tell you this, man. Man, luxury is really nice when you're driving. And by the way, when it's not your money, it's even better. Luxury is even better when it's on someone else's dime.
Always. Going back to the driving the cars too, if you know that your family or the wife or someone's going to need a car right around you, do it months in advance. Like Nick said, when you don't need the car immediately. I did that the year before, and before the CX-5 we have now, my wife had another car that I didn't have a huge hand in purchasing. She kind of did it, on her own, not her own dime, but her own time, and it didn't work out the best in the long run. But regardless, I drove, everything from the MDX to Explorer Sport to the Limited Explorer to the CX-5s and a bunch of other cars over the course of, we'll call it 4 or 5 months. And I got a really good idea of things I had seen on video, which is always good. We love review channels, things I had read in articles, great articles out there, and then the hands-on stuff. So when I presented my list of cars and why she would like them, because I know her well, She narrowed it down to like 2. I said, no, we're driving all of them, right? And as
Yep.
we went down the line, she was like, I see exactly what you were saying. The Mazda is a perfect example. Like if you drive the non-turbo and it's an okay car, and then you drive one of the turbo ones, you're like, why do they even make this non-turbo one? It's such trash. Unfortunately, like that's how bad it is.
Well, I'll tell you that the MDX is better than you think because there's
It
no
is.
hype around it. I think the MDX doesn't, and they don't sell any of them.
No.
Statistically, I've seen it's very low sales numbers, and
Mhm.
and they sell only. I think Acura's only profitable thing right now is the RDX.
Mhm.
I think the MDX is good.
It's
I
pretty
I,
nice. Yeah.
I mean, and if you get the right, what is it, the A spec or whatever?
Ace-Bake, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's really nice.
There was
It's
a
underrated.
It is. It is. There was another Lexus. You probably know better than I do. It's got an easy name. I think it's a letter or two. I can't remember, but it was too small. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, the what is it,
Something,
like the NDX or something, the
something like
ND or
that.
something
And
like that.
yes,
The
exactly.
Yeah, something
Nice
like that.
looking,
Yeah,
fine, but it was not like on the level of something.
yeah. You have to really get to like the RXs and
Mhm.
bigger. I think
Yeah.
for that stuff. What is that called?
Yeah.
ND or something like that.
Yeah.
But
I'll look at it in a second. It was
yeah,
nice.
I've never actually purchased one of those smaller ones. I've never
Mhm.
like had a client come to me. Everybody always ends up stepping into the RX or something just because the same reason you said they're just a little too small,
Mhm.
and you'd have to fit a really certain clientele,
Yeah.
somebody single, maybe somebody aging, no kids in the house, things like
Yep.
that. I've heard the same story.
Exactly. All right, for all the new listeners that we are picking up, welcome to the number one car-related car culture podcast on the planet. We talk about news, trends, market predictions every single week, but more importantly, we offer you a good hang every single Monday. Going back real quick into the Toyota topic, there's a lot that's lost in context, which is funny. You mentioned the champ, whole thing, which I didn't even know that there was a thread within the thread about that stuff. But a lot is lost in context, whether it's email, DMs, comments on post. So you don't know sometimes the way people are saying it, if it's like they were annoyed at what you said, or they're actually
Sure.
asking a question of like actual advice or whatever. So in that same video, we had talked about Supra, and we had our own opinions on Supra, and for the money, there's faster things that are more enjoyable, and the whole BMW and Toyota conversation. So the way that this person posed the comment, I'm going to ask it as if it was an actual advice question and not like annoyed at what we said. But they said, given
Yeah.
the conversation on the podcast, what would you? Where did I lost it here? Oh, because also keep this in mind, it's going for around 60K. So if you're thinking about Toyota Supra, coupe, rear-wheel drive, fun car, 60K. What is a fast car? What would you consider a fast car for 60K for the same kind of fun you can have in a Supra?
I mean, I think. I mean, look, you can pick up M3s pretty low. I mean, you could pick up my M3, which is 450 plus horsepower.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think the sub 400 horsepower for 60K is a fast car. Now, if you go, I like how it handles, I like the balance of the car, this is what I'm going to use it for, and it fits what I mean, I understand all that. But, a lot of the comments were Supra is a fast car. Guys, I mean, I got a 2008 M3 that's faster than Supra now. I mean, that's not a fast car. It's just not. But again, a Miata is not a fast car, but it has different value than my M3. So it's what you value that I think a lot of people, when you get into the sports car segment, one of the things people, or whether people want to call it adjacent to sports cars or whatever you want to call these, GR86, Supra, Miata, whatever, I call them, the sports car segment. And I look at this and I go, you have to have a reason for buying that car. Some of it could just be price. Hey, I can get a used Miata for 31 grand. It fits what I can afford. That's why I buy it. But horsepower is pretty cheap
Yeah.
today.
Especially
Like
today. Yeah.
horsepower is pretty damn cheap. And so 60K for 383 horsepower, that's not cheap horsepower. Like that's really expensive horsepower. That's just a fact.
So what I had replied to them was because I'm always thinking of it from my perspective, where I do need the space. If I'm going to spend the money on a fun car, it just right now can't be a coupe, unless I was okay with just bringing in another car that might get driven once or twice a week at most, and it's just like that's not really practical for me right now. So I said anything from, if you wanted to stay within the realm, but also needed space. You could go Mustang, even though the back seats are unusable. But if you think of a performance pack Mustang, which I've talked about before, you can get it for way less. If you're okay with a little bit of a used car, then
Oh,
60 grand.
100%.
So much more a car for the money. But, in the space-wise, S3, RS3, Golf R, and then I said the CT4, which we never really talk about, but the CT4 and CT4 Blackwing is super slept on for that
Yeah,
same price.
100%. And this is where you get into and you go, I just like Supra is a perfect reason to buy it.
Totally.
Okay. That is the number one reason to buy it. Not two knuckleheads that say, hey, I wouldn't buy it. That shouldn't have any value to you. If you go, I've always wanted to own a Supra. This is the one I want to own. I mean, I'll tell you, go buy it right now. That's the perfect reason to buy it. Yeah. We have a guy inside of our community named Wesley. He's a Nissan Z guy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell him, keep pouring money into your Nissan Z. Why? You love it? Great. But there comes a point in time where opinion and fact meet each other. And I think for the Supra, it's very expensive for what it is. That's my opinion on it. Okay. And I'm not sure why they didn't chase a little more horsepower. I think that's a little strange to me. But again, we've kind of said Toyota, with the cancellation, with the lack of investment in this platform, basically partnering with BMW, I don't think it was thought through enough. And I think that's how you ended up in this mess with Supra being canceled so quickly.
Yeah, and they also said, given that almost everything is, 60 grand these days, which is not lost on me that the new 60K is like the old 30K essentially, and it's unfortunate.
Good call.
But
that's a good point.
It is what it is, and I understand the frustration of an enthusiast saying like, well, given everything 60 grand, like what else? Yeah, you're right. Like there are some choices, but if you go use like most enthusiasts are okay with doing, there's still plenty of options.
Oh, I mean, I would say you probably have 50 options.
Yeah.
That are really good below 60 grand. And I think there's a bunch of options, 45,000 to 30,000, depending on what mileage you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. Right. So that 15,000, that 30 to 45,000, 30 being pretty high mileage, for 45, you're getting a pretty low mileage. You could pick up my BMW M3 2008 E90, for low mileage, 35 to 40. You know what I mean? Like, and it's one of the better BMW platforms they've built. So, and you're getting a manual. Let's not forget that part of it. You're getting a manual on some of these cars that you can spend 30 to 45 on.
Well, talking about manual fun cars, we talked about the Cafe. I used to call it CAF, but I guess it would be Cafe standards, right?
Well, I just call it Cafe. I mean, I'm not sure that that's.
I'm not sure
that that's the right. I'm not sure it's the right pronunciation, but that's what I'm going with.
It's such a silly, stupid standard anyway. But regardless, like, I could say things to just get all these videos immediately dinged on these platforms. But we're trying to play nice with the platforms because they're being nice to us right now. But Car and Driver reported that Europe is saying farewell to the Civic Type R. We never really talk about cars like that either. Like, do those kind of cars interest you?
They don't interest me as purchasing now, but if I was of a certain age, I'd be fired up about them. Like when you're kind of getting your life started, maybe you're getting a job, you're earning a little bit of money. There's always, to me, in my lifetime, the progression was always, Honda S2000 led to your first Audi, led to your first BMW, led you to Porsche as you grew older. So I think these like Type R, Civic type cars are the entry point for a lot of enthusiasts that just start to get their life started, and they're still single, maybe they're under the age of 25 and they're earning a little money, or they're willing to work a little overtime to afford the car they want. So I've always thought, and I think this gets lost on the internet sometimes, like, this would be guys that are WRX guys, or, like in your world, the Golf guys. Mm-hmm. There's always a logical progression. Like you go from Golf to Audi to BMW to this thing to that thing. And I think that's the cool thing we never talk about. And so just because of my age, I will tell people I probably don't talk about these cars enough. Just because I'm at a different point where I'm looking at 911s, and it's just because I have age. I just have a little more time earning money in the world and that kind of thing. But to me, this is the start. Like a Civic Type R, what a cool start for an enthusiast who's now out of their beater, right? They had their beater from 16 to 21, and now they're in, hey, let me go ahead and maybe stretch, or I can really afford it. Like, I think that's a cool thing.
I absolutely agree, and I'm going to bring back the old joke of the aristocrat and the man of the people right here. We got the aristocrat who's I agree with everything Nick just said, but I am still a man of the people who I see these cars and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be the 45, 50-year-old that probably still has like a hot hatch somewhere in the back, but I also do want. Watch this.
What's Rob
Reach
doing
over.
here?
Yeah, I had to reach over off camera. This was an early Father's Day gift. Dad wheels. My favorite car is the GT3. It just is. So it was
Whoa, look at
it's a
that.
custom Hot Wheels with my kids and my favorite Mexico blue Porsche right there. So I
Hey, that's
will have
pretty
this
sweet.
car at some point, but I'm also going to have a hot hatch at all times because that's just the boy racer in me.
Yeah, and like if you look at me, I was just thinking about this the other day. People have been listening to us the last couple of weeks. I've been down this 911 rabbit hole, but the problem is I always have that tab open with the wagon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I always have that tab open of like, hey, has something new come to market? And there was an E55 AMG wagon that came up. I want to say Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, one of them. I'd love to give them a shout out, but I forget which one it was. And I just go, yeah, I could really enjoy that.
Okay. All right. Here's the would you rather right now as we stand early June of 2025. If you found, since you've been going on the rabbit hole for the past couple of weeks on the 911, if you found the spec'd out 911 you want, but you also found a wagon that was basically pretty close in price, which one would you pull the trigger on today?
Man, because of my life, I'd probably say the wagon because I have two young kids,
But
and
you
I know
got the
I could drive.
Lexus.
I could drive it more though. The thing
Yeah.
is that I could drive it a lot more. But if it was if it was really the right 911, I'd be hard pressed not to buy the 911. I'd probably say I'd end up pulling the trigger on the 911.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer. I mean, you've got some cars you could put the kids in already as it is, right?
Yeah. I got plenty, but here's the thing: I always just say to people, it's something about when I can put my kids in it, then
Yeah.
it gets driven a little more.
Fair. Good point.
Where people don't, if you don't have kids or you haven't experienced it, the problem is you go, hey, I'm going to take my Porsche and I'm going to go to the store. And then one of your kids goes, I want to go to the store. And you go, damn. Okay, well, let's just hop in the Lexus. The seats, more comfortable for you. There's more stuff. I know it's not the right thing. I know that people that aren't in that situation, but it's like, you're not going to tell your kids like, hey, let's not run to Home Depot. You're just not going to do that. So I would probably pull the trigger on the 911. Let's just hope I don't get in that situation. And like I said, guys, one of the things about me, one of the biggest enjoyments for me is just looking at stuff.
Yeah.
Following it, hey, going down a rabbit hole. What are these doing right now? What are these? Are we seeing the market fall 2, 3, 5 grand, whatever? Like that's sort of the fun for me.
So to wrap up or put a pin in that one, basically why the Civic Type R isn't going to exist in Europe. Honda says it's a decision due to European legislation, meaning that the racy hatchback's 325 horsepower turbo is too rich for the region's emissions rules. And that's the end of that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you and I both know this, and we oftentimes try to stay away from this stuff, guys, but we're all very aware that things are being legislated out of existence. Okay. A lot of times we're all very hard on the manufacturer, and rightfully so at times, but also in a bad way, sometimes we don't go, these guys are having things just legislated right out of their hands. And this is Honda saying, yeah, we really don't want to kill this car in Europe, but I got news for Europe. I can't make the car. Yeah. And now, how much of that is true and how much you want to dig into it and how much you want to say they could do this or that? Look, man, they're not going to sit there and struggle with Civic Type R. They're not going to do that, right? They're not going to compromise it or spend another, 10 million trying to figure out the Euro standard. They don't sell enough probably to do that and make it a business decision that's worth doing. And so sometimes we do have to remember in the back of all of our heads that some of the things that have happened in the car market, if not the majority of things, have been dictated through global government, not through car companies just saying we don't want to do things.
In that world of the Honda, Civic Type R, STI, all that, Mazda, Protege Speed, did you have a favorite growing up where you're like, that's kind of more my direction?
S2000.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
S2000.
you like those small roadster-ish kind of cars more
Yeah,
than
I
most,
mean,
huh?
that was what I was around. I mean,
Yeah,
it was just like I think it's a matter of what like kind of took off in your city.
sure.
S2000 was just sort of. I didn't have like a hatch city, like
Mm,
hot hatches weren't like huge where I grew up. I mean,
gotcha.
let me put it to you this way: sports cars really weren't a thing where I grew up. It's not a small town anymore. It was a small town at that time. A lot of trucks,
Yeah.
a lot of a lot of shotguns in the back and that kind of thing. So you were just, you were exposed to what you were exposed to, and that's why I tell people. I mean, let's go back to the 4Runner conversation. Growing up, she thought that was going to be the car that said, "Hey, I've accomplished something. I want to buy this car when I get through this accomplishment." That's why you need to go drive it, right? To
Yeah.
go back to it is like whatever we all grew up around, that seems to be the car we aspire to. And at the time, I didn't have hatches and things. I mean, wagons were not a thing. Like you couldn't have seen a wagon for 25 miles in my hometown.
It's safe to say Nick and I grew up around a lot of Billy Bobs from Varsity
Oh
Blues.
yeah. Varsity Blues was a big thing where I grew up.
100%. Well, I brought that up because to piggyback off of the Honda Type R, Subaru teases a new performance model, possibly a reborn WRX STI, which is funny to see makers like Honda do what they have to do with the Civic, and then you have Subaru like, hey, let's bring back the STI, which I think is a great idea.
I got
But
a
it's supposed
question
to,
for you. I
yeah,
wasn't deep in this WRX world, although
okay,
I kept up on them. I saw one yesterday sitting at a light.
yeah.
Are they ugly now?
Terrible, 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 terrible. So much plastic. It doesn't look anything like the
The
original
thing
stuff.
around the wheel, the
Yes,
fender
fenders. I know.
looks
It's
so
terrible.
stupid in person.
It's terrible. And they're supposed to debut a new model, which people are saying might be a new WRX STI at the Tokyo Auto Show, is what they say here. So that's cool for enthusiasts. Like that is a fun thing to be able to hope that comes back.
Yeah,
But
I'll say this. I'd love to hear from the WRX crowd, especially guys that have been in it, for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever.
hmm
I saw one yesterday. It's unrecognizable.
yeah,
It's unrecognizable to me. And again, I was never heavy into that world. I always had a respect for what the WRX was. But I
hmm
got news for you. That thing looks horrible in person.
yeah, and it's crazy, man. We keep opining about the other older times, but you have to because when you look at like the WRXs, and people will know, like the Bug Eye, the Hawkeye, all these different variations that we all saw growing up, so awesome. And then you have just basically what looks like an EV with a bunch of plastic around it now.
Well, I think it's a little too angular. They went a
Yeah, for
little
what it
too
is.
angular with points. It's like I understand modern design is more angular than it was 15 years ago, and I'm
Right.
kind of cool with that. There's a lot of cars that look better with some angles to them, but looks like WRX and Subaru just said let's put an angle everywhere on the car. It's
Yeah.
like no, man. I mean, you can relax. I mean, you can
How do
chill
we
a
make
little bit.
our version of a WS6 Trans Am in a hatchback or sedan?
I literally was sitting at a light yesterday driving home, and I'm like, God damn, that thing is ugly.
I can just see you sitting at a light with such disdain for what you just saw. Like, who
Because here's the thing,
released?
like I always thought it looked good whether I was involved, like unless it was my thing or not. I was like, oh, WRX always kind of looks put together, has the right curves, looks right in the right places. I looked at it yesterday. I'm like, damn, this looks like somebody put the worst body kit on the planet on his WRX, and that shit comes like that from the factory.
I got to bring this up because we recently talked about it probably less than 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and it's Ram. Good old Ram here. 2026 Ram 1500 gets its HEMI back, keeps its six-cylinder sibling. And we just talked about how they said no more V8s, no more big
Yep.
engines. It's all
They brought
turbo
the
sixes.
big boy back. They
Yeah,
brought
they
the
were like,
guy who founded the TRX, and
tell them.
this is so when people think, especially the consumers or the enthusiasts out there, it matters the human beings that are in the building. Just remember that. I'm not really big on the word leadership because I think it's been bastardized in a lot of ways, but they brought the big dog back. Right when they fired Stellantis CEO, this guy, I think he came back within a week. Was it days or weeks?
I think it
It
was
was
days,
minutes.
honestly.
I thought
Yeah,
it was minutes.
really quick.
But I'll say this to everybody, like Ram has a chance here in the next 3 to 5 years, if this guy stays in charge, that Ram will be back because he's that kind of executive and he knows what you guys want and he knows what he likes and he knows what makes Ram. And as a guy that's owned a Dodge Ram for the better part of the last 10 to 15 years, I'm happy to see it because I got a HEMI. That thing got a HEMI. Mine's got a HEMI.
Please bring them back. Bring John Reap and the other comedian. I forgot it. John Heffron.
Oh, dude, that
John
shit
Reap.
was so
Bring
funny.
them
That thing got a HEMI. You're about to find out.
Bro, I love it.
So I will say this. I never said they shouldn't build the 6-cylinder.
No.
I just said what you needed to do, all of these brands, and Ram is finding this out pretty firsthand, you need to wean people into the next generation, not eliminate, right? This is what we're kind of seeing with Charger. Guys, wean people to the next generation. Don't just go, hey, we're going to go EV from the HEMI. It's like, no. Guys, just wean people to that. Like, take some time here. And that is not government mandated. They're making bad decisions all the time. That's where we gotta draw this really gray area. If Ram can bring back the HEMI, then Charger had no reason to jump right to electric, right? So that's what I mean by the people in the building at some point do play a big part in things being competent for the consumer.
You know, at some point, if we have like a private members only man cave episode where we talk about this stuff, like Nick and I talk about how much common sense really doesn't exist a lot. It feels like, and not just the car industry, just at large when we're having to deal with a lot of different parts of businesses or our own personal lives. To be honest with you, but this is a good example of it. Like as of 48 hours ago, the 2026 1500 will once again be able to be fitted with a 395 horsepower V8. What's funny about that is that we just read less than a month ago that this was not going to be an option in the near future or at all, right? And it says that the HEMI is going to be a $1,200 option for most models, and orders are now open. So you know what? I kind of want a V8 HEMI because if they can also put it at a price point where it really competes with the Coyote or something else in a Ford, why wouldn't you?
Well, and it's a good point, but I'll ask everybody out there. I think we can clip this, and it'd be an interesting thing to see what people believe and what they think. Is also, I think a lot of times car companies are talking too much. They are getting really roped into constantly putting out information and then having to rebuttal their own bad information. So if I could have one piece of advice, and I know this would be hard because they're going to, their media team will come back and say, we got to stay in the loop. We got to make sure everyone on social media sees stuff and you don't understand. Cool. Maybe just make some cool videos instead of making these stances of what's not going to exist and 30 days later it does exist. Yeah. Like, is that too much to ask? Like, maybe just go out to the track and make some videos and shoot some B-roll and make some hype videos and then just give the information when the complete story is there. I think there's way too many car companies that talk all the time. Why are they talking all the time?
Take a page, once again, out of the old wrestling playbook and let the internet make the theories for you, right? Put out some hype videos, like make some things go on. What? And see what happens and let the internet do its thing while you're actually working behind the scenes to make things happen in a timely order where you can say, this is officially what's going to be. Not, again, 48 hours ago, they said it's going to happen.
And I will say this. Every car company's talking too much. This isn't a Ram thing.
To say that everyone in general in high levels of the world.
Yeah, it's okay to just go do your thing, like you said. Let's make some wrestling intro videos.
Yeah,
let's bang some beers together. Whatever. Have a bald eagle coming down and taking its talons out and picking up a Charger or whatever. But you guys are talking too much, and I think this is where I tell people about corporate malpractice at times. Mm-hmm. There's people in the media team that need to keep their jobs, which we understand. And so they're making all of the executives in the organization believe we got to talk all the time. That's what I think is happening in the building. Now, some of these executives want to talk all the time. Make no mistake. Your boy at Ford, the CEO, he wants to talk all the time. I mean, he's got a podcast.
He's a podcast.
Yeah, he wants to talk. I'd probably figure out my business before I talked as much as him, although I do really like him, just so everybody's clear. I'm not picking on him.
Of course.
But I think a lot of these media companies and media people inside the building, whether they hire directly onto their team or they have these consultants, are telling these men and women in the building to talk all the time because they need to stay in the loop and they need to be out in front of the customer. But there's a way to do it to stop dropping information that isn't true. And by the way, when you dropped the information, you knew the V8 was coming back. So why'd you drop the information at all? Well, when you talk too much, you just say things that aren't true because you're talking all the time, right? You're constantly trying to just say stuff to stay in the ether, so to speak. It's like, guys, be quiet, make some cooler videos, make the cool commercials. You know, that thing got a HEMI. Like, do some other shit where you don't have your executives talking all the time.
So instead of, I don't know how long it's been out, but there's a commercial where it's a guy that looks like Chris Hemsworth. He looks like Thor in the videos, and there's like a dragon. Have you seen these videos of the Dodge Ram? I don't know if you've seen it or not, but he's like, okay, he's pulling like what looked like a smoker, if I'm not mistaken, like a big barbecue grill. Instead of rolling out that campaign, had you brought back John Heffron and John Reap, and you did something that just alluded to that thing got a HEMI in it, you would have lit the world on fire with excitement.
100%.
For what's
Great call. Great call.
Instead,
yeah, I mean, yeah, but instead we're listening to your executives go, I don't think we're going to have HEMI. It's like, dude, you don't have to talk. You don't have to talk.
Man, it's interesting, man. Interesting times. But we got to get to a couple of listener questions. Like, this episode has been rocking and rolling pretty quickly here. So let's start with the first one I click on is what I'm going to read to Nick, and it's going to be from Jim. Jim says, as a kid, I thought Craftsman tools were the ultimate. I loved to roam around the aisles of Sears. Who didn't love roaming around Sears, by the way?
Hey, our Sears turned into like an Amazon distribution center or something.
Wow, sellouts.
I know.
Dreaming about what I would buy for my ultimate home garage. Who's making the best bang for your buck tools out there these days? And to really get the conversation going, is Snap-on worth the money? Love the content. Thanks, Jim. By the way, we have a couple of Jims and Tims that write in, so thanks to everybody.
Yeah. Let me tell everybody up first, I am not a tool expert. I would, my second half of my car life, so to speak, I'm hoping to start working on my cars more. I've been in the aesthetic part of the business, you know, my entire career. I do have the Snap-on and the Matco guys stop by my shop, so I've been on those trucks. And first of all, I don't think you can go wrong with Craftsman. I have Craftsman here. That's what I have. I don't think you can go wrong with Craftsman. The brand was purchased, I believe, by Lowe's, right? Did Lowe's purchase Craftsman?
I think so.
You know, so I don't think you're getting a huge step up out of Craftsman into a Snap-on. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a huge step up. There's going to be a lot of mechanics that listen to us that are going to be Snap-on loyal, but they're going to be Snap-on loyal because they can finance you. You can pay as you go. I would say this is the thing that doesn't sit right with me with Snap-on, and I do have a couple Snap-on things here off the truck. It's a finance business more than it's a tool business, in my opinion. They're just trying to get you to owe them something. Mm-hmm. You know, it's sort of like rent-a-centers. If anybody remembers how big those were back in the day, rent-a-center, rent your couch, you know, till you own it, that kind of thing. That's the way I look at Snap-on. I don't think Snap-on's any higher quality, like some massive quality jump over the Craftsman that you may have. So that's not the jump I would make. The jump I would make, Rob already knows where I'm going because I spent a lot of time there at SEMA in November.
A lot of time.
The jump to me would be to something like Wera. Okay. That's when, if you're going to leave Craftsman, which I don't think you have to, but if you leave Craftsman, then I think you want to make the jump to something like Wera. Mm-hmm. Okay? That to me is where it's worth it. The way their things operate, the engineering in them, those types of things. I'm sure many of you have other of those types of brands you like. The Wera booth at SEMA was the booth I spent the most time at SEMA in November. Period, point blank, end of story. I have witnesses that you heard on a meeting this week, Rob.
Yeah.
That is the booth that I visited multiple times, and I don't visit booths at SEMA multiple times. That brand impresses me, and what impresses me is the knowledge, not only of the people at the booth, but the common sense of the innovations they make in their hand tools. I think the other thing is you got to start talking about power tools. And for the average at-home guy, I think you're in the Milwaukee type of, that's what most car guys are going to go to, is the Milwaukee brand. And then you're in the whole ecosystem, right? You got the battery ecosystem, you have all that kind of stuff. I don't think Snap-on is what it once was, because now they're just more into the financing part of the business. And that stuff can get really freaking expensive because of the financing that goes on. Again, if that's the brand you're into and that's the stuff you like, I say buy it. But this specific conversation of Craftsman versus Snap-on, you got to realize, man, a lot of this stuff's being made in the same place.
Yeah,
You know,
and
that's
that's
just the nature of it.
I'm glad you wrapped up with that point, because what I would say, I agree with everything Nick said. And then the way I look at it, I'm fortunate enough to have, so my father and grandfather were always mechanics of sorts. Like, they were truck drivers, but they always mechanicked on their own stuff. So everything from doing the airbags on the dump trucks or 18-wheelers to everything under the hood, they did most of the things themselves. So I've got a shop it has every tool you could ever want, that is probably, 30, 40, 50 years old, some of them. And those tools, to me, when I use those versus anything new, it's not like I can't substantiate the fact that I think that they're better, but I think they're better. So if you can either get some that are passed down to you, go to garage sales, go to estate sales, and find tools, the Craftsman or any tool from 20, 30, 40 years ago, I think, one, you're going to pay less, because it's just, you're going to pay less at a estate sale or a garage sale or whatever, or if it can be handed down to you, and they're going to last just as long as they lasted your dad or your grandfather, and they're awesome tools.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying is, like, I feel like you either gotta stay in, and some people really swear by the Icon brand from Harbor Freight, which I think you'd
Yeah.
probably find are made in very similar factories, quote
Yeah.
unquote, as something like a Snap-on. I would say this to people: I'm very big on, if you're gonna make the jump to something like Wera. You know what I mean? Instead of saying, I think from this lower brand of Icon or Craftsman into Snap-on is going to be this huge leap for you. I don't think you're going to feel that, and I think you're going to pay exponentially more money, and you're probably going to be like, at the end of it, if you're an honest person with yourself, which we find in these types of conversations, if you're loyal to Snap-on, you think what I'm saying is blasphemy, right?
Yeah, right.
I get it. You don't know what you're talking about. It's like, guys, these guys stop by my shop all the time. They're in my parking lot 5 days a week. They're very nice people. The Matco guys, the Snap-on guys, all people I respect. If those are the tools you like, by all means, invest your money in them. I don't think you can go wrong. I think they are a little overpriced when you start to think about, there's a lot of these companies that don't control the global means of production, that they're all kind of being built out of the same factories. That's why I would go, hey, Wera they got really interesting hand tools with a lot of things with you in mind. That, to me, is a jump. There's going to be a lot of disagreement about it. Cool. I'm certainly not an expert, but I know quality when I see it. And there's a different level of quality with certain tool brands. And I don't think Craftsman to Snap-on's that big of a quality difference.
And that's Wera, I believe, right? If for people that aren't familiar.
I think it's like Vera is actually how you pronounce it, but I'm
Vera. Okay, fair.
I think so. Don't quote me. Everybody
We got a
that's
lot
a
of
tool
words that
expert.
have been pronounced a little bit differently, so please don't roast either one of us.
Jaguar.
Jaguar. Pod question on Toyota MR2. New listener, but love the podcast. Recently picked up a 1991 Toyota MR2, and after learning more about the car, it seems like this car as a whole is not going to be replicated again from Toyota. What are your guys' thoughts on the MR2, and do you see their value rising in the used market since it's a mid-engine turbocharged car from Toyota? And if Toyota were to make this car, do you think it would be a Lotus Fighter or more of in lines with a GR86 in price?
I think it would probably go more at the Lotus, just because of the design they'd have to do. This is not coming back, by the way. I don't think Toyota. If Toyota didn't invest in Supra, I can't imagine they're going to invest in a mid-engine anything.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong, by the way. It'd be cool to see. But I think one of the things is that I love this question because I hadn't gone down the MR2 rabbit hole in a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about value, I want people to realize that I'm going to be a lot more pragmatic about what values are. Mm-hmm. The fact that an MR2 turbo, I saw with 80,000 miles sold for like 34 grand on Cars and Bids at one point in 2023, pretty damn good appreciation for that vehicle. Now, it was a turbo. Now, let's make sure everybody knows the MR2 turbo is the one that you want. There's non-turbo. We're going to talk about the turbo here. I think anytime you see things that fall between that $15,000 and $35,000 range, in these kind of like enthusiast markets, do I think they're ever going to be worth $100 grand? That's probably unlikely. Could be if inflation keeps going the way it is. It's just $100 grand because a loaf of bread's, $35, but who knows? At the end of the day, I think you buy this car because you want to drive the wheels off of it. This is what I would tell any collector that was in the MR2 market because they want it in their collection. I'd tell you the same thing if you were just getting it as a weekend car. I look at things like my BMW, this MR2, all that kind of stuff. Like, guys, get one you can afford, enjoy the hell out of it, because yes, is there a 0.1% chance it may appreciate? Okay, maybe. But is it going to appreciate to a level that by the time it appreciates, it's going to change your life as a person? Probably not. So to me, the interesting thing about diving into MR2s, which I hadn't been down that rabbit hole in a while, is like, what a fun driver's car for a pretty nice price.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
and when
go, that is to me, put 150,000 miles on it type of vehicle.
No, 100%. And when I looked up, because again, same, right? MR2, I hadn't looked at it in forever. But check this out. Pontiac Fiero GT versus Toyota MR2 versus RX-7. This was originally published in the 1987 issue of Hot Rod Magazine, almost 40 years ago.
Man, I don't care what anybody says. That Fiero still looks sick.
I
That
agree.
would have been like a lot of when I was 16 years old. There were some people with some Fieros. People with some Fieros there, Rob.
You're right. I agreed. Hey, man, Rob Deerdick said it best. You know, the Fiero is where it's at. Even if he
Hey,
said
and
it
Rob Deerdeck from my neck of the woods. I mean, I know he saw a lot of Fieros.
What about that RX-7 though?
I love RX-7s. I think that's one of the more underappreciated cars still, just like the MR2, probably a little bit underappreciated. But again, guys, you're 20, 30 years down the road and these things can still sell for 25 grand. That is appreciated. Like, let's just be honest. Like, that still means there's an appreciation for them. So if I was a young guy, especially, and I was thinking about something to get 30,000 and below, MR2, RX-7, those would be on my list, because look at how much car and how much fun you get for a car that's really stood the test of time. More than I would push people, and this is maybe why I don't look at something like Civic Type R the way everyone else does, is because I go, well, I can get an MR2, I can get an RX-7. That's just the time I grew up, right? So when we talk about why I don't go down Civic Type R as much as everyone else, is that I think these are fun-ass cars that have stood the test of time. And I'll tell you what these would really rank for. These might be really cheap mileage cars. Like, you pay 25, you put a bunch of miles on it, and you sell it for 19 down the road. Pretty cheap mileage after a few years.
Yeah, and last week we talked about, and we've talked about a couple of times, cheap mileage. Like, talk about a car that you can have fun with, and then when you get rid of it, I mean, you might not lose much, if anything, on it.
And if anything, right. And so, to answer the guy's question, this doesn't feel like it's on its way to 100 grand. I don't think that is what we're going to see out of the MR2 market. I'm ready to be wrong. I've been wrong in my life. I can't believe some of the cars that are selling for what they are. But this, to me, feels like pay 25, ride that thing hard, enjoy the hell out of it, and maybe you get lucky and you sell it for 19, 5 years later, and you paid like $1,000 a year, $1,200 a year to drive that thing around, which I think would be awesome.
I got one more that we're going to end on. We had a last minute one that came in. Shout out to Tim, which is funny enough. I said Jim's and Tim's were writing in. So this one's from a different Tim. It's a longer email that we'll get into next week. It's two different questions. They're great questions, but we're going to end with this one because I know Nick is really going to enjoy it once I find it. Hi, great podcast, pragmatic and knowledgeable. Question: what do you think about the Ineos? Decent warranty, lots of used low mileage cars, less than 2,000 miles, sitting on lots. Bad car, untested dealer market? Question mark. With everything costing 70 to 80K at least. It's an interesting car. Please let me know your opinion. Thank you very much. This was an anonymous one.
Yeah, I would say this. I'm a huge fan of Ineos. I'm a huge fan of what they're trying to do. I think, again, you have a billionaire that goes, I just want to be able to buy the old school Defender, so I can't buy it, new, and I'm just going to build one. We should all root that on. What a great billionaire. He's just like, they don't have it, I'll build one. Look, it has the B58 in it. I know they have a diesel version. I don't think that's being sold in the States. I'm not sure. We wouldn't buy that anyway. Largely throughout America, diesels are a tough sell. But the B58 platform is very reliable. Remember, you can get your Ineos serviced at any BMW dealership because they do have that partnership. I think a lot of things hold things like Ineos back, and it's not Ineos's fault, is that the consumer gets really worried about things they don't understand. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand that it's basically a BMW drivetrain that you can just go to a BMW dealership and get serviced, right? So Ineos hasn't done a good job of putting people's mind at ease. I understand that. But also the consumer hasn't taken 5 minutes to just go, okay, what engine is it? Because Ineos isn't building the engine and the drivetrain. BMW is. The B58, lauded for its dependability. It's been around. I think they're great. Rob, you've seen them in person.
Yeah.
I think if you're really looking for something to stand out from the crowd, and that's the reason you buy cars, is you want to be different than everyone, hard to beat an Ineos, in my opinion. If they've really started to come down in the used market, I would buy one. Personally, if I was in that market, I think it's a cool vehicle. I mean, you saw one in person. It has a presence. It's very unique. Sort of has that, like, for those that can't afford a G-Wagon, got that G-Wagon vibe to it. I think it's a win. I want it to exist, by the way. Like, these are the things I root on, so maybe I'm a little bit biased here, but I want these things to exist. And I think absolutely, positively, you should feel comfortable because you can just go to a BMW dealership or BMW technician, independent technician in your area and get them serviced.
Appreciate all the questions. Again, if you want yours read and discussed on the podcast, clutchculturepodcast@gmail.com. I do have one more story, though, that I wanted to ask you about because we've talked about Jeep. And as a matter of fact, Nick's working on a Wrangler project, trim restoration project on the Hyperclean Store YouTube channel. We're at part 1. Part 2 comes out this next Monday, or actually when this podcast drops. So that's the Hyperclean Store YouTube channel, restoring trim. Really interesting process. I'm surprised that you were so loosey-goosey with gloves and trim and dye and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, people get real up in arms when you don't wear gloves to do things. It's like, I don't know why you care about other people wearing gloves, but hey, they care.
Do you not wear gloves when you detail either, usually?
No, not really. People let me tell you, man, I got news for you. If I went 25 years not wearing gloves, the stuff I was using in the year 2000, a lot worse for you. It's already there, bud. It's already. Dude, we used straight acid back in the day. Like, let me explain to people. Like, you'd get burn marks on your hands, and there was no such thing as gloves.
Let me play devil's advocate.
It's just a habit thing. It's not trying to be like a hardo. It's just a habit thing.
But let me play devil's advocate. Because people that know Nick might be like, well, you know what? Some of the decisions and things that Nick has done, maybe it got to the fumes got to his head. It's not the hands.
Hey, 100%. They could be right. Could be right.
All right, here we got one more from Car and Driver. This one and we mentioned it too, probably about 2 weeks ago. The 2026 Jeep Cherokee debuts. The first photos returns with a hybrid-powered drivetrain, but it is a little bit more boxy. So I kind of dig the redesign.
Yeah, I think the only thing you have to worry about with Jeep right now, first of all, the Gladiator stuff is pretty appalling with how little they're selling, and those things are sitting around.
Right.
But I would say, here's what I just have to hit the pause button, man. Jeep has had some really, like, one of the biggest lemon law situations is Grand Cherokees from like 23 and 24. I think that's one of the biggest lemon law situations that's around right now. A lot of them being lemoned. I just got to hit pause button. I hope they get it right. We've talked about, we hope Grand Cherokee comes back to glory. It was a big part of your childhood and my childhood around our neighborhoods. I'm just hitting the pause button. I don't know what the hell Jeep is doing. I think they've been, and people may think this is crazy, and it probably is, but I'll say it anyway. I think they were so rattled by Bronco. I think it just threw them completely, because they owned that market, right? Wrangler owned that market, and overnight, Bronco just, came on the scene and just exploded that market because they really hadn't done a lot with the Wrangler platform over the years. They just kind of kept putting out the same product. It took them a long time to put the bigger engine in it, which everyone was clamoring for. Jeep is right now on the pause for me. I don't know that I could tell somebody to buy anything from Jeep just because I don't really know that they have. I think they've lost the plot of the movie in a lot of ways.
Did you, and we'll go out on this, but do you know anybody, I don't know if these are your clients necessarily on a regular basis, but that went from Jeep to Bronco and then liked the experience, or that didn't like it and went back?
100%. Yeah, no, we got one of the first 392s that we did a lot of special work on, did a lot of customization on, and now lives at the beach in Southern California. So I don't get to see it a whole lot. Every now and then when I'm down in SoCal doing some things, I'll see it. But that particular customer, their next cars for the beach were ordered as Broncos. Oh, okay. So even when they got the 392, the Broncos hit and everything like that, and then they kind of waited it out. Now Broncos are kind of everywhere, and you can get them at any time. I think Bronco really, it's something people don't talk about that could happen to any business in the world. when sort of like what happened to Blockbuster with Netflix. They didn't know what they were looking at. It hit them in the mouth, and they go, "Uh-oh, we're way behind." And I think Jeep just hasn't focused enough on reliability. They haven't focused enough on just building a good car. They lost the plot of the movie, and now the question is, are they going to get the plot of the movie in the next, 24 to 36 months and go, okay, like you said, you showed it. They're going back to a little bit boxier form. I like that change. I think we'll all root that on. Is the engine, is the drivetrain, is the price, is all this stuff going to come back in line? I hope so, but I wouldn't. And to answer your question, yeah, I've had a lot of people leave Jeep to go to Bronco.
That makes sense. All right, everybody, please leave the show a like, a rating, a subscription, a review on Apple if you enjoy the show. We've got a lot of 5 stars, not as many written reviews, but a lot of 5 stars. So I'll take it. But at the same time, I'm going to keep saying, please, give us the satisfaction we want by telling us we're awesome. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow. If you see a clip somewhere, share it or just leave a comment or whatever, because it's really helping everything kind of get to the top of whatever we want to call it, the algorithms, the charts, the podcast charts. But clutchculturepodcast@gmail.com, Clutch Culture Pod all over the internet. Nick, HyperClean Nick. He's usually more so on HyperClean Store on Instagram, and I'm at RobGTV. Yep. And Nick, we'll see everybody next week.
See you guys.